Hi, boys and girls. I'm going to read you a story about George Washington. I have a story about Abraham Lincoln, but I want to read this one today because we're going to make a hat like George Washington used to wear, a three-cornered hat. And we have to make it today because tomorrow, Friday, is our Patriotic Day. We're supposed to dress patriotic for Zoom, and that would be wearing red, white, and blue. If we make our hats today, then everyone will have a red, white, and blue hat that we can wear tomorrow for Patriotic Day, okay? And you can wear a red, white, and blue shirt too. All right, I love this story, and it's because it's called George Washington and the General's Dog, okay? It's a great story. So when I read this book yesterday, let me find the one I read yesterday. I read this book. It just told us a little bit about George Washington and a little bit about Abraham Lincoln. Today, we're just going to read a story about George Washington. Do you remember that before he became president, he was a general in the army? He was in charge of some soldiers in the army. So we're going to read the story, and then we'll make our little hats. Okay? I love this book. George Washington is one of America's greatest heroes. Most people know that George was honest and brave, but there's something about George that people don't always know. So look, boys and girls, this is a museum. And these are the three children. Maybe they're on a field trip or maybe they're with their family, and they're looking at a big portrait or a picture of George Washington. Okay, George Washington loved animals. Now, when I read this book yesterday, it said that George Washington used to live on a farm called Mount Vernon. It was a beautiful, beautiful farm. Look at all the animals he had. George learned to ride horses when he was a young boy. Sometimes he rode into town. George rode fast, but he never fell. People said he was the best rider they had ever seen. Look at him ride that horse. When George grew up, he moved to a farm called Mount Vernon. Every day, George checked on the horses and the hogs. He checked on the oxen, the mules, and the sheep, but he spent most of the time with the dogs. Okay, sorry about that, guys. There he is with the doggies. George had a lot of dogs. He owned 36 dogs in his lifetime. He took them hunting, he played with them, he even gave them cute little names like Mopsy, Sweet Lips, and True Love. Those are funny names for dogs, aren't they? There he is on the farm. Sometimes George spoiled his dogs. He let them run around the house. One day, George's wife, Martha, cooked a ham for dinner. Ooh, yummy. Look, she's about ready to put that on the table. George's dog, Vulcan, jumped up and stole the ham right off the table. Martha chased after him, but George just laughed. Thought it was funny. There he goes. He stole the ham. He's running away with it. George liked being at Mount Vernon with Martha and the animals, but America needed him. America was not yet its own country. It was an English colony. That means it belonged to England. Many American colonists wanted to be free from England, so they went to war. The war was called the American Revolution. The colonists chose George to be their general. George chose his favorite dog, Sweet Lips, to go with him. He said goodbye to Martha and to Mount Vernon. He jumped on his horse, Nelson, and he rode into battle. Sweet Lips was right beside him. So that they said a lot of people don't know that. Everyone knows that George Washington was a general in the army, but not a lot of people know that he took his dog with him when he went off to war. In George's day, soldiers often brought dogs with them to war. Dogs helped them hunt. Dogs helped them track the way. Dogs help guard against wild animals. Look at the dog is barking at the bear. Best of all, dogs were great partners. See, the soldiers would get lonely because they were without their families, and so the dogs would keep them company. The general of the English army was named William Howe. He had a dog too. He also had 9,000 soldiers. They had plenty of supplies. So these are the redcoats. The redcoats are the army from England, and then the blue coats are the army from the United States. George did not have nearly as many supplies. Sometimes his soldiers were cold, sometimes they were hungry, but they never gave up. In the fall of 1777, George's troops went to Pennsylvania. They were fighting the English troops. Guns fired, rat-a-tat-tat, cannons roared, boom, boom, smoke filled the air. Okay, they're fighting against the other side, against the English soldiers. Finally, the fighting ended. The English soldiers went back to their camp. The battle was over for the day. The smoke began to clear. George noticed a dog without a soldier. It looked lost. George bent down and patted the dog's head. This isn't his dog. This is a lost dog. The dog followed George back to the colonist camp. He wagged his tail. Whose dog is this? Wondered George. George looked at the dog's color. The tag had a man's name on it. The name was William Howe. William Howe? George couldn't believe his eyes. William Howe was his enemy. Boys and girls, William Howe was the general for the other side, for the English army, and that's his dog. Word about the enemy dog spread through camp. Some of George's men wanted to keep the dog, but George said no. George believed the dog belonged with his master. George had his friend Alexander Hamilton write a note to General Howe. The note said that George wanted to return the dog, because they were fighting against each other, but he kind of is holding up like okay, let's just have some peace for a minute because we want to return the dog to his master. Both sides raised white flags. The white flags meant no one could fight. George's soldiers walked the dog across the battlefield. They gave him back to General Howe. Look at the dog. He's so happy to be back with his master, isn't he? People in England found out about George's good deed. The English still wanted to beat George in the war, but now they respected him. Some English people even liked him. They had never heard a story of such great kindness between enemies. Look at it, was even in the newspaper that George Washington gave the General Howe's dog back to him. In 1783, America won the war against England. America became its very own country. George Washington went home to Mount Vernon. Look at, they're celebrating. They're having a parade. Friends around the world wanted to honor George. They wondered what he would like. Then they remembered the story about the dog. Soon presents started arriving at Mount Vernon. The King of Spain sent George a mule. George named him Royal Gift. A friend from France gave George an even bigger gift, 7 dogs. George's work was not done, though. The American people needed a leader. They elected George Washington to be their first president. People all over America loved their new president. They cheered when he rode by in his carriage. They knew it was him because his 6 white horses always led the way. And that was the end. Now, if you can see this picture, here's a real picture. It's a portrait of George Washington on his horse, being the general in the army. And look at his 3-cornered hat, boys and girls. There was another picture of him with his hat on. Let me see if I can find it. Here he is. See, when they were having the parade for him, see how he wore his special hat? So what we're going to do is we're going to make a special hat. And you're going to find it in here, okay? You guys saw the 3 red, white, and blue. Kind of a funny shape there. It's super easy to make. And then you also, everybody had a yellow star. Let me get out the yellow star. Call it a gold star. So it is very, very easy to make. You're just going to need a little bit of help from your parents to staple and put the hat together. But what you're going to do is just start out by cutting out all 3 pieces. So you just cut on the dark black line. I like to see the black line, so I'm going to color on the edge of it. We're going to color 1 red, 1 white, and 1 blue, because those are the colors of our flag. So we will look very patriotic tomorrow when we are dressed in our red, white, and blue. Okay, here's my blue one, and then this is the scrap. And don't try to cut all 3 out at the same time, boys and girls. They don't really match up that great, and yeah, you're going to have to do all 3 separate. Now, I have a little song about the 3-cornered hat, and I'm going to sing it while I'm cutting, okay? It goes, my hat, it has 3 corners. 3 corners has my hat, and had it not 3 corners, it would not be my hat. So George Washington always wore a 3-cornered hat. Now, I don't know if his had a star. I think in some pictures I saw it had a feather sticking up. Okay, I'm going to sing that song again. My hat, it has 3 corners. 3 corners has my hat. And had it not 3 corners, it would not be my hat. As if it was a big, tall hat, it might be a stovepipe hat like Abraham Lincoln's. Okay, or a baseball hat or a cowboy hat. But George Washington had a 3-cornered hat. And you're going to see why they call it a three-cornered hat in a minute. I'm going to throw away my scraps and get out my glue stick. Give me a second. I forgot to get it out ahead of time. It's in my little bucket here. Sorry about that. Okay, now you guys decide what color you want to put in front when you wear your hat tomorrow, okay? So if you think this looks good on the white and you want that to be right in front, then glue it to the white. If you want it on the red, glue it to the red. If you want it on the blue, glue it to the blue. I can't decide. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Catch a tiger by its toe. I think I'm going to put it on the blue. You guys, it's completely up to you. Now I'm going to put some glue on the back of my gold star because he was a general, right? He wasn't just a soldier. He was like the boss. He was in charge of all the soldiers. Now, your parents are going to have to help you. It's very easy. So don't make it too complicated, parents. It's super, super easy. And a lot of times you think, oh, that's too easy, but it's not. I'm just going to put these two corners together and staple it. Okay. And then I'm going to add the white strip. And I'm going to put the white and the red together and staple it. Okay. And then I'm going to put the white and the blue side together and staple it. Now, I did not measure my head. I think for the kids, you shouldn't have a problem. It fits pretty nice with me because my head's bigger. I might have to go move those staples a little bit. So here's my three-cornered hat. There's one corner, here's two, and here's three. Kind of like a triangle, right? Let's see if it fits me. Oh, it fits good. I don't even think I have to take the staples out. Okay, I love it. Here's my three-cornered hat, and I'll see you tomorrow. Wear your hat on Zoom. Bye-bye.